Hello, Eddie here, Risk Management Lecturer of Think Education. Today we are going to discuss Module 6 of this learning material. And this is our last module of the course. It is highly recommended that you go through the learning materials and this presentation includes some key concepts only, and please find the details on your in your study guide. And again, this is my advice as survival kids. You've seen this slide many times, I guess. So yeah, please make sure that you split the tasks into smaller chunks, like a study guide, download the study guide, assessment brief. So you do that step by step. So it's not going to be a large assessment for you if that's the case. And assessment 3 is due in week 11. Thanks for those who submitted the first two assessments. So you are on the right direction to meet the satisfactory result for this unit. And again, these are the objectives of the subject. We've gone through everything basically. You just need to discuss a little bit about the the treatments and we also need to manage a few things like the stakeholders. So that's the one that we try to capture today. So this is basically showing you the target that we try to achieve with this presentation. Understand implementation, monitor and review risk treatment, and understand managing stakeholders. Okay, so we remember this. I believe we should remember this, all right? And this is basically referring to your assessment 2, where we create a risk register table like this, and also action plan. So your assessment 2 includes the risk register table, okay, until priority, and after that you create your you develop the action plan, okay, and that is basically the starting point for your assessment 3. And one of the things I'd like to highlight just briefly about your assessment 3 is to make sure you align everything in your to your risk register, risk events, and also action plan in your risk register table. Okay, so as a summary, you can summarize the risk events, brief comment about the priority, and also your action plans, your key initiatives about the actions. Okay. Right, so referring to this risk register table, here we have 2 risks. I'm not going to repeat this again. I'm just reminding you that we can look at the risk level, and based on the risk level, we prioritize the risks, okay? Okay, now we will discuss about the implementation, monitoring, and review risk treatments. The treatment plan should actually clearly identify the priority order in which individual risk treatment should be implemented. So we'll have to do it in the organization. The reason for that is basically the organizations, as discussed in the previous module, have limited resources. And a significant risk may be the failure or ineffectiveness of the risk management measures. So we need to monitor, and the monitoring process in here should be part of the, it should be integrated into the risk treatment plan. And risk treatment can also introduce secondary risks that need to be assessed, treated, monitored, and reviewed. So if you refer to the risk management process framework, referring to the Australia Standard, New Zealand Standard 31000/2009, risk treatment, we have the monitoring as well. We have the monitoring in elements in that process, and that monitoring actually is triggered because risk can develop into secondary risk. Right, these secondary risks should be incorporated into the same treatment plan as the original risk and not treated as new risk. So when we treat the risk, it may develop. We may find a new thing, a new risk coming as part of the secondary risk. So we have to treat it as in the same treatment. Okay, so we'll have that. We'll have consistency if we do that. So we are not going to treat that as a new risk. Okay, action plan. Action plan is actually a description of what needs to be done to achieve a goal. So it has to show how, when, where, and by whom. And in terms of developing the action plan, we have to identify the tasks, analyze and delegate tasks. Therefore, we need to include the person charged to deliver the task. And double check if required elements have been completed. And some scholars suggest the acronym schemes, which is basically about space, cash, helpers or people here, equipment, materials, expertise, and systems. Yeah. So they are actually the elements, the elements that that we need to in order to develop the action plan. Right? A bit of reminders for us when we develop the action plans. That's the reason why we also need to include person in charge and also resources when we develop an action plan. Okay. Developing an action plan actually requires us to involve the relevant stakeholders. The reason for that is these stakeholders have the expertise, they have the unique skills that we don't, and they can add value to our risk management plan. And we also need to consider the KPI, key performance indicator, at what point that we say we have completed the action plan. Therefore, we need to have a specific measures. Okay, let's say if we address the risk, being let's say one of the risk events that we've been discussing is that competitors may slash their price, and the action point in here is to introduce the tactical promotional activities to cushion the impact. So the key performance indicator here could include whether the promotional activity has been prepared accordingly. Okay, so when competitors really reduces the price, we can just launch the activity. It should also be simple because we need our action plan to be easily understood by everyone and crystal clear. If we make our action plan to be complicated, it will be hard for people to understand it, to comprehend it. Therefore, it may create confusion. As a result, our action plan cannot be delivered. And regular and focused reviews, we need to keep reviewing it. It is part of the standard in the organizations. So when you develop the action plan, keep monitoring it on a regular basis. You organize the meeting if you need to with the relevant stakeholders, review that where we are at, and so on and so forth. Okay. And the leader in here has a critical role because the leader helps clearing the roadblocks towards the implementation. That's the role of the leader. If the leader doesn't, if we don't have the leader, that means the team implementing the action plan may struggle if they have problems in the implementation. All right, so in terms of develop an action plan for treating risk, we also understand that we need to plan early. Early. That means we have a proactive process in place. and it should be part of the operations of the organizations. In some instances, we may also create a task force team because the risk may be too specific and also too large for the organization to allow the normal operation procedure to address the risk. So we create a task force team, address that, and we get this team to keep monitoring it. Sometimes in the context of project management, we also need to have the project team members to get involved in terms of treating the risk. All right, so risk action plan template. I'm not going to discuss this a lot more, but this is actually also related to your assessment 2 and 3. You can use these templates. Here we have the risk events, likelihood, impact, priority, or before we do we analyze the priority, we have the risk level and treatment options, whether we want to accept the risk or we want to reject the risk or we want to transfer the risk or share the risk. And this is our action plan and how we monitor that, on what basis we monitor that, and this is the timeline to complete that action and who is responsible in it. Okay, so that's the action plan that we incorporate into the risk register table. Okay, one of the critical points in the implementation is the communication. Okay? Consider who needs what information, when they need it, where the information should be stored. Organizations would normally have their own standard in terms of storing the information. Some organizations have shared drive, so people can access it. And normally, the access is also related to the role of the person. So the team who works in marketing, for instance, have got the access to marketing files, for instance, and the team who works in finance have the access differently. And what format should it be stored? Is that going to be in the format of word processor such as Word document, Microsoft Word, or PDF, or is that going to be hard copies as well, or both types, soft copy or e-file and hard copy are needed in the communication, and how the information can be retrieved? Okay, now stakeholder is critical in here actually. Along the way of the process, we need to consider stakeholder, right? They are individuals, they are also a group of people, organizations, and stakeholders actually anybody who has the interest in what we do, because what we do will affect them and what they do will affect us as well, okay? And they may or may not gain benefits, therefore that may affect their level of interest in what we do, and that may also affect their support in what we do in risk management as well. Okay. And they can materially affect the outcome of our risk management. So some scholars suggest mapping the stakeholder powers. So we may rate them from 1 to 5. 5 means extreme degree of power. These guys are so powerful in the organizations. 4, high degree of power, and right down to 1, no measured power, basically. So we can map them based on this to understand where they sit. That this helps us managing our stakeholder. And we can also map their interests. Their interest is basically related to whether they get the benefit or not. That's one of the reasons why they're interested, or sometimes they have personal interest why they still spend time to work on this project, or to help us in this project, for instance. The same thing in here, we can also rate them from 1 to 5. 5 being extreme degree of interest. So these stakeholders really interested, right? Interest in here means support and can also be against us. They can also oppose the ideas that we have outlined in our risk management plan. Okay? And down to 1 to be no measured interest. Okay, so and after that, we can map them based on the interest and power that they have. So here we can understand our strategy in terms of managing our stakeholders. Okay, so based on this, we have low and high interest, low and high power, and if the stakeholder is categorized as low interest and low power, we say it is minimal effort that we need to spend. And as a contrast, if the stakeholder has high power and high interest, then we need to manage them closely. Okay. And what about if the stakeholder has low power but high interest? We need to keep them informed. We need to keep updating them. Okay. And if the stakeholder has high power but low interest, we need to keep them satisfied. Okay, so we need to understand what they need. Normally, they need the information. Normally, they also need their, although they have low interest, they need to be they need to be accommodated as well. Okay, now managing stakeholder, we can also use this template. So we have the stakeholder, the responsibilities, and what information that they need from us, and what formats of information they need, and what frequency we need to update them, and who this person is. Okay, so we need to we can outline the stakeholders accordingly. Okay. And in our risk management plan, we also need to consider building the engagement with the stakeholders, because if we get them engaged with our project, we can get their support. Okay, so this is a template that you can also use to manage the stakeholder engagement, to assess the stakeholder engagement. Let's say, according to this template, we have 3 stakeholders. These stakeholders, C represents the current position, D represents the desired position or what we wish, and which is basically normally reflecting what we expect them to change. Let's say stakeholder 1 is unaware of our risk management activities, and with our communication plan in place, when we implement it, when we want to implement our risk management, we communicate with this person. We expect this person to change to supportive, okay, to supportive to us, okay, so support our risk management plan. Okay. And stakeholder 2, for instance, this stakeholder is in the neutral position. We engage with the stakeholder. If we map, okay, we have someone in the neutral position, and we engage with this person accordingly. You can also refer to the previous templates that we discussed, what information that they need, what format, and so on and so forth. So we hope that this person could be supportive to us. And in the case of stakeholder 3, the stakeholder 3 has been supportive, so we want the stakeholder to maintain the position, being supportive to our plan. Now, this template is basically taken from the Project Management Institute, who published the PMBOK, Project Management Body of Knowledge. Right, so this helps us to gain to manage the engagement with the stakeholders. Now, in reality, there may be some people helping us or involved in in our risk management plan, but this guy, sits in the we can't change these people to be supportive. So if that's the case, you need to consider again whether you really need their support or not. If you do need their support, then you need to set up a specific approach, like organize a face-to-face meeting, one-on-one meeting with this person, or if necessary, you may want to talk to your manager to get support. Okay. All right. In terms of monitoring the risk action plan, it is actually integral to the risk management process. And you will recall these are the elements that you also need to address in your assessment one in terms of the elements of the risk management plan, referring to AS/NZS ISO 31000:2009. And again, risk reviews, team meetings, progress reports, they are quite normal in any risk management action plan monitoring. Now, you may recall that we've been talking about monitor. If we run a project like a risk management plan, for instance, we need to keep monitoring it. If you look at that, it is integral part of the it is an integral part of the risk management process shown on the framework. And it is also critical to identify the person in charge for specific risk management activity because, again, as discussed before, the specific person helps us understanding what their unique capabilities are, so they can contribute further to our risk management process. And depending on the size of the organization, it may include the risk management professionals, may include the insurance risk manager, corporate treasurer, or WHS manager, compliance manager, in education industry, for instance, or in any other legal related organizations. They may also need compliance manager, internal auditor, business continuity manager, or sometimes the team may include department heads of marketing, for instance, or sales, because they are running the project basically, so they need to run the risk management responsibilities. Okay, so hopefully, I just want to reinforce that risk register table is a must for us in managing risk, because people like viewing everything in a simple format, because they want to manage everything, in a simple manner. Okay. Okay, so next step, please do not get frustrated. I trust they are quite simple for us, and what we suggest you to do is to go through module 6 and work on assessment 3, which is due in week 11. Attempt the tasks and hand in your assessment on time, and contact me if you need help from me. Okay, they are my references, and good luck.